Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Shooting the Ish with Mo. This is the second video that I'm posting, and today we'll be discussing Batman's Rogues Gallery and we'll be ranking them according to the following categories. So we have five tiers here. The top tier would be God tier, Excellent tier, Great tier, Good but not great tier, and average tier. So as you can see on the screen, there's no technically bad or trash tier because Batman in all of comics has the most iconic rogues gallery. And that's just my opinion. I'm a huge Batman fan, so I might be biased, but I mean, numbers don't lie. So without much further ado, let's get to the video. First character we have here is Poison Ivy. So, Poison Ivy for me is not technically a villain. She likes to call herself an eco terrorist. Her agenda's great actually, but there are moments where she takes it too far, especially when it comes to protecting the environment and the green. And that's where Batman has to intervene and stop her. She's very interesting member of the Rogues Gallery of Batman, as since the beginning of time, her and Batman has always had this some sort of sexual tension that is going on between them. Even in the 90s, there is a Batman Poison Ivy comic where they explore deeply this sexual tension between the two characters. So for me, given the combination of her abilities and the mythos that she brings to the table, I would have to give her to the excellent tier, just a tad below great tier. Sorry, a god tier rather. Again, when you say excellent tier, there's no bad tier in here. Even if I put her in average tier, they're all great. I'm just categorizing them on the importance of their contribution to the mythos of the Batman character. Next villain we have on the list would be the Riddler. So Riddler, or Edward Nigma, or Edward Nashton in the new comic books, is a very interesting villain. Reason why I say this, because he's the main villain in the upcoming The Batman movie starring Robert Pattinson, would be a line of a new trilogy of films. And if you watch the trailer, they're going with this Zodiac killer slash Zodiac killer slash serial killer vibes with the Riddler, which is a far departure from, let's say, the 1997 film. The 1995 film Batman and Robin, where he was portrayed by Jim Carrey. You know, this wacky, crazy character. You know, just zany. Which for me, I do not like this portrayal because if you read the comic Zero Hour by Scott Snyder, when he did his Batman run, the main villain was Riddler. And there you could see, when it comes to intellect, Riddler's intelligence is on par with Batman. Like, even in the comic, the Tom King's run of Batman's A War of Riddles and Jokes, you can see the type of threat Riddler can become. So that is the reason I am so excited for the Batman movie. If it wasn't going to be announced, however, like if I haven't watched the trailer and my only live action image of the Riddler was the Jim Carrey one, I would put him in the average tier because the concept compared to the other villains is like it could be the weakest, but there's so much potential to that character and what he can present as a challenge to Batman. So for me, I'm going to slide him to the great tier, just below Poison Ivy. That's would be my ranking for the Riddler. So next villain on the list, this is going to be a controversial placement, since she's so popular, is Harley Quinn, or Dr. Harleen Quinzel. She debuted in the Batman animated series actually. that it was written and created by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm back in 1992. She gained so much popularity, even to this day, that she became a mainstay in the Batman mythos, and she had her own comic book run. Now she has her own movies, and she has her own animated TV series. So basically, I've heard some complaints. Current DC fans, especially Batman fans, she's becoming more of a distraction. She's more of a Deadpool type of character. Many people call her overrated. For me personally, I enjoy the character, but in terms of the distraction criticism, in terms of the Batman mythos, I see the point. Like the point, I see it. Uh, she's a more integral part for the Joker as to Batman. Like if we remove Harley Quinn from a Batman story, you won't feel her or miss her presence. But if you add her to a Batman story, it's like a distraction some sort when she's there. That's why she's a great character on her own. I like her when she is uh, doing this solo adventures thing. Her animated series is very funny. If you didn't have the time, please do check it out. It's worth the time. That being said, I'm going to put her in good but not great tier. Again, this is not a knock on the character. This is more of, as compared to the two above her, these two are more important to the mythos of Batman, in terms of his rogues gallery. So next would be a new addition to the Batman. This, I think, this is the newest addition to the Batman mythos. This he was introduced in the New 52, in the New 52 run when DC did their reboot after the Flashpoint comics. It would be Professor Pig. So Professor Pig, basically his whole thing is like kidnapping people, doing experiments, mutilation, be part of his doll army. For me, he's such an interesting character. He's my second favorite addition in the New 52, aside from the Court of Owls. Reason why I say this, because the potential I see in him, like let's say if DC tried to do a story, if there's a writer trying to do a horror themed Batman story using Professor Pig as some sort of like a crazy scientist jigsaw type guy, I mean, come on. The potential is there. So for me, I've seen animated adaptations, and then I know he is in the, correct me if I'm wrong, Arkham Knight video game. And his inclusion there doesn't feel wasted. He plays important beats even in the comics. So it would be really interesting if if he ever has his own live action adaptation. Hopefully, maybe, who knows, the Matt Reeves uh, film series, but we have to wait and see. So with that being said, I would have to also put him in the great tier, just below the Riddler. Next, one of my favorite rogues member of the Batman's villain would be Dr. Jonathan Crane, aka the Scarecrow. He's a very interesting villain for me because the concept of Batman, the reason why he Bruce Wayne become the Batman, is to strike fear in the hearts of criminals, right? Jonathan Crane uses the same concept, but he takes it to the extreme. So if the Riddler is like the intellectual counterpart to Batman, this is the fear counterpart to Batman. Like if Batman take it to his approach of utilizing fear as a weapon, he would be the Scarecrow. So Scarecrow, tragic background, daddy issues, where his origin in the New 52, his father locked him up, and like near a cemetery, I think. A long time I didn't read the comic. And from there, Jonathan Crane developed an obsession with fear, where when he became a college instructor, he used that fear experiments on some university students. That's where he got kicked out of the university. His current iteration, he uses a lot of fear toxins, and he has this like Grim Reaper sight. I don't know how to pronounce it. He's a like he's getting like fighting skills and stuff. Again, very iconic Batman villain. You just have to put him in the excellent tier, but I'll put him below a Poison Ivy. Next is one of the most tragic Batman villains. Personally, I do not consider him as a villain per se. Is Doctor Victor Freeze or Mr. Freeze, his villain name. So basically, his whole thing is trying to save his wife from a rare blood disease. His first comic book origins in the Silver Age in the 50s and 60s, he was like this wacky, bald headed guy with some ice gun, very boring for the era. But the genius of Paul Dini and Bruce Timm made him such an interesting character. They won an Emmy Award for the episode Heart of Ice. So if you have time, like after this video, after you finish liking and subscribing, help me out. Go to the Batman animated series, watch the episode titled Heart of Ice. That's all I have to say about Victor Freeze. Such an interesting character. His motivations as a villain, very understandable. Like him and Batman cross path many times, and just like Poison Ivy, I do not consider him as a villain. He's just a person who got fucked by society, and then take matters on his own hands, and those matters are extreme. So that's the reason he needed to be stopped. And that being said, such an interesting and compelling character. He will be in the excellent tier above Poison Ivy. Such an underrated character in the Batman's Rogues Gallery. And that's the reason why I'm so mad at the 1997 movie Batman Forever when Arnold Schwarzenegger was the Mr. Freeze. Just butchered the guy. That's the reason I want a reboot, live action reboot that gave Mr. Freeze his justice. So next on the list, Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman. Catwoman, she's not a villain anymore, to be honest. This is the love interest. This is the Bay. This is the supposed to be wife of Bruce Wayne. If you read the Tom King run, she left my guy at the altar. Bitch move, hurt me. I want to put her in the average tier, but I'm not gonna disrespect her like that because she's so important to Batman's mythos. She is the thing that Bruce wants, but because of his crusade against crime, he can't have. And it's funny because they're both compatible, but their ideologies differs. That's where they bicker. That being said, I want to put her in the good but not great tier because she's not a villain anymore. But during her run as a villain, I'm thinking about her run as a villain, not her current iteration. She was such an integral part in the mythos. Great introduction in the Long Halloween. If I'm not mistaken, she had her own spin-off series out of the Long Halloween called When in Rome. So if you have time, you can read the book When in Rome, even her new 52 solo series. Very interesting character. Her motivations are understandable. Like steal from the rich, take care of yourself, put her in odds with the Batman. I'm gonna put here in great tier, out of respect. Out of respect, I want to put her with Harley Quinn, but out of respect for the bats, I'll put her in the great tier. All right. Next would be Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin. So Penguin is basically like this deformed dude who runs casinos and is a mobster. That's it. Although his origins in the movie 1992 movie starring Michael Keaton, where he was played by Danny DeVito, it hurt me because when I was a kid, two things I felt. I was scared as shit. Second, his portrayal, it's like such a sad backstory when he was born to this Cobblepot family, and then, like I said, he was born deformed. That's the reason they threw him in like the sewer or some place like that, and he was raised by the penguins. Most iterations of the penguin, his family, the Cobblepots, were a prominent family that fell from grace, and then Oswald is blaming the Waynes. That's the reason you have a personal vendetta against Bruce Wayne, which is interesting to me. But in the grand scheme of things in the Batman mythos, he is one of the most recognizable villains when you think of Batman villains. But in, like I said, in this grand scheme of things, compared to the other villains that are currently on the list, I have to put him below Harley Quinn. He's good, not great tier. Again, there's no bad tiers here, guys. It's just everyone is important, everyone matters, but varying degrees. Next would be Firefly. So his whole shtick is he's an arsonist. He likes burning shit. That's it. He likes to burn shit. Average tier. It's not really important. In the video game, Arkham Origins is one of like the eight assassins, if I'm not mistaken, hired by the Black Mask, secretly the Joker, spoiler alert, to kill the Batman. You know, yeah, I don't feel him. I just don't feel him. That's the reason I put him in the average tier. Next would be the most, most, I repeat that, most underrated, underutilized villain in the Batman's Rogues Gallery. The madman, the genius himself, Hugo Strange. For those who don't know Hugo Strange, basically he is a psychiatrist at Arkham Asylum. He's so obsessed with Batman. In fact, he is so obsessed with Batman, he actually figured out Batman, Bruce Wayne, one person, which is such an interesting thing and dynamic that he has going on for him. Because I remember watching one episode in Batman the Animated Series where no one believed, like the villains didn't believe Hugo Strange when he exposed Batman Bruce Wayne. Like, of course, the two differing personas of the two characters, like, didn't put it together. Even in the Arkham City, if you watch the cinematic trailer of the Arkham City video game, which was done masterfully, when Batman was brooding in like the top of the cityscape, and then Hugo Strange said, "I know who you are, Bruce Wayne." I mean, come on. He is such an underutilized character. I have to put him in the excellent tier. Have to. Like, to my Batman fans out there, if you know, you know. I put him above Scarecrow. If you know, you know. Hugo Strange. Come on. What are we doing here? Next would be another icon. Very important to the Batman's Rogues Gallery. One of the guys Batman feels guilty not saving, Harvey Dent, aka Two Face. Such an iconic villain. Favorite portrayal of him was Aaron Eckhart in the Dark Knight movie. Also, I like his portrayal in the Telltale games, in Batman the Telltale games, where you spend more time with Harvey Dent. You see the signs of him being his split persona before he actually becomes Two Face. Such an interesting character, such an interesting reflection to Batman because Batman has the duality thing also working for him. You know, you have the Bruce Wayne side, you have the Batman side. So this is the reflection of Bruce Wayne's duality. And given that, I would need to put him here in the middle. Excellent tier. Such a fascinating character. Such a tragic origin story. And this is like, it's talking about mental health, like the neglect of mental health, like his childhood, the pressures of him, his fiance left him when he become Two-Face, his vendetta against like the criminal justice system. So for me, the Two-Face, the Two-Face character, such an integral part. Okay, next we're moving on to the Mad Hatter. So basically, this character is obsessed with the story of Alice in Wonderland. So he kidnaps women who looks like Alice. He uses hypnosis on them and then do tea. I'm going to put him in the bottom tier. Here's why. Here's why. In the graphic novel by Grant Morrison, it is hinted he does some thing to young women, underage women. I'm not gonna mention that thing. It was heavily implied in the graphic novel. I don't support that type. I don't like, you know, that type of thing. So I have to, throw him at the bottom. I'm sorry. I don't rock with that. Next would be the crime gangster, the Black Mask. He made his live action debut starring Ewan McGregor in the Birds of Prey film. Uh to me, I'm gonna be honest, he's not really a Batman villain for me. He's more of a Red Hood type of villain. So for Cyanus, I have to put him in the bottom tier, but above Mad Hatter. I mean, he's by default the last because of the Arkham Asylum graphic novel, A Serious House on Serious Earth, where he's implied to be a child. Anyways, moving on, I would Joker. Come on, do I have to explain? I'm not going to explain. You know, you know. I'm not gonna explain this. It's by default, bro. It's by default. So next, Man Bat, uh, Professor or Doctor Kirk Langstorm. He is the reflection of the monster that is within Bruce Wayne, the Bat. Like if he goes full Batman, but him, it's in the physical sense. Such a interesting concept. Such an interesting concept. However, the execution part, it's not there. He's basically like this monster, like he's basically the lizard version, like Spider-Man, in the Spider-Man mythos. Dr. Kurt Connors is using like lizard DNA to regrow his arms to regenerate. Kirk Langstorm is doing the same thing, like to cure some ailments in his body, but using bat DNA. So basically, their contribution to the mythos are just that. They're not really villains. The concepts are interesting, but the execution is just fall flat. So I would have to put the Man Bat also in the average tier. It's nice to have him in stories, but the stories is not really interesting. Next would be Clayface. Clayface, another tragic character. So basically, a quick background. This is his origins from Beta's Batman the Animated Series. He was an actor that went through an accident. And then when he went through that accident, there was like some kind of special cream where he applied in his face. And then he became addicted to it. So when he couldn't pay the mobsters for the steady supply, they shoved the clay on him and they left him for dead. However, it merged with his DNA and he became the shape shifting character Clayface. In the current iteration in the comics, and in the iteration in his animated iteration, he's not really a villain anymore. Same thing with Catwoman; they're not anymore villains. But but I'm judging him on his villain run. I have to put him above Professor Pig and just below the Riddler in the Great Tier. That's how I have to put him. Next would be Killer Croc. You know, he's like a Solomon Grundy type character for me. He's, distraction, he's there. Someone for Batman to beat up. Doesn't contribute so much to the story. Good, but not great. Next one would be very interesting. Lady Shiva. I don't like her use making her some like glorified bodyguard for the League of Assassins. She's more than that. She's actually one of the top hand-to-hand combat fighters in the entire DC universe, and one of the people Batman trained with. Her skills are phenomenal. Best animated adaptation I watched of her. If you guys have time, watch the movie Batman and Son of the Dragon. You will see the real Lady Shiva on how she fights and stuff like that. Her current iteration, especially in like the New 52, the DC animated movies inspired by the New 52, even in Young Justice, she's just a glorified bodyguard. But in her villain peak and her potential, I want to put her in great tier, but I feel like, I mean, she is great. Lady Shiva, so underrated. So underrated, Lady Shiva. I wish she has more shine. Next, this is an automatic god tier for me. Ra's al Ghul. So there has been some, pronunciation issues. Some people say his name is Raish. Some people say his name is Raz. But since I grew up in an Middle Eastern country, an Arabic country, the pronunciation Ra's al Ghul, meaning head of the demon. So, but you know what? You can pronounce it how you want to pronounce it. Man is there. So if you read the graphic novel, the Demon trilogy, Son of the Demon, Bride of the Demon, and Return of the Demon, he is basically an immortal using the Lazarus Pit to rid the world out of crime. Same mission as Bruce Wayne, again taking it too far as he has no opposition to killing. He's also the father of Talia al Ghul. So if you know Talia al Ghul, she is the mother of Damian Wayne, the son of Bruce Wayne. So this is the stepdad technically of Bruce Wayne. Such an interesting character. This is one of the villains that Batman actually respects. Like Batman doesn't see him as a villain. Ra's al Ghul don't see Batman as a villain also. They see each other as peers. He calls Batman detective or a great detective out of respect. So out of the two characters, they have so much respect for each other. It's just their ideologies don't see eye to eye. Next would be Victor Zaz. So basically, Victor Zaz is a crazy serial killer that you could see in Netflix documentaries. So basically, Victor Zaz, every time he claims a victim, he scar his body just to keep count on how many kills he does. So yeah, not really interesting. Not having much to go for him. I'll put him, in the average tier. Next, Deadshot. So Deadshot for me, he belongs in the side of the Suicide Squad. All the thing that the Suicide Squad have for them going on, that's where he belongs. But in terms of a Batman villain, yeah, I'll put him in good, not great tier. Okay, the last villain in the list, the last but not the least, God tier, Bane. Bane is the physical and intellectual counterpart to Batman and Bruce Wayne. This is what people don't understand about Bane. Bane is not only super strong, he is also super smart. Aside from Hugo Strange, bald guy with the freaky glasses, he discovered Batman's identity, used it to his advantage, paralyzed the man, and his peak, bro. His peak. The problem with Bane is like he picked too early. Like if you read the storyline, if you have time, read the graphic novel Nightfall. You're going to see the Bane at his best. Another great run from him. Most recent was I think Tom King, City of Bane. But for me, it was a so-so story. The problem with Bane, he peaked too early, and then he became sort of a parody, like the Tom Hardy portrayal in the Dark Knight Rises film when he does the voice, the Harley Quinn animated series. He becomes sort of a parody, but if we're going to judge him as a villain, as opposed to Batman, he is such a threat. His latest crime against Bruce Wayne in canon, this is canon, he killed Alfred. Imagine all the damage Bane did to the Batman in his run. He broke the bat, the iconic comic panel where he like snapped Bruce, killed Alfred. I mean, such an icon, bro. You need Bane. You need Bane. God tier, bro. God tier. So, yep, that is my tier list. If you guys agree, disagree, write in the comments below. I'm interested to see your opinion. Like, who would you have in your tier list? And also, if you like this video, kindly like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, if you have any suggestions for me, you want me to do other tier list videos, bracket fights, or just, like shooting the ish and talking about other topics, just let me know in the comment section. So that would be it from me. Peace.